Welcome top news today.
President Trump waves while walking toward the White House Feb. 1. Andrew HarrerBloomberg Charles Franklin, director of the Marquette Law School Poll, made an interesting observation over the weekend. The number of Americans who identify as Republican dropped in 2017, and the group that benefited appears to be independents. There is an interesting connotation to this. President Trump's low approval ratings, which have improved recently, are often discussed with an asterisk. He may be unpopular, but among Republicans he's still viewed positively. But if there are fewer Republicans now than there were when he took office, that Trump maintained the support seems less impressive. If 6 of your 10 friends like your spouse, but then 3 of the 4 who don't decide they don't want to be your friend anymore, it's not exactly a good sign if 6 of your remaining 7 friends are still supportive. That analogy, though, is a straw man. Let's look at the numbers, using data from Gallup, which was what Franklin's analysis was based on. Over the past 15 years, the number of independents has risen in the United States. It's now the biggest partisan group in the country by a wide margin. In Gallup's most recent data, the dots furthest to the right on the chart below, 44% of respondents identify as independent, while only 32% identify as Democrat and 22% as Republicans. The solid lines are the trends. That group of independents, though, includes people who tend to lean to one party or the other. Most independents identify with one party or the other. In fact, only 13% of Americans and 30% of independents identify as independent without leaning to one party or the other. So let's pick out 3 of the groups above Republicans, excluding independents who lean Republican, Republican-leaning independents, and what we're calling pure independents. In 2017, the number of people who identify as Republican dropped off. The number of people who identify as Republican-leaning independents stayed about the same, and the number who identified as pure independent went up. It's often the case that political transitions happen gradually. In a presidential race, people usually don't switch from one candidate to the other, they make a pit stop in undecided first. It's possible, looking at the graph above, that a number of Republicans began to identify as Republican-leaning independent as a number of Republican-leaning independents decided not to lean that way anymore. Franklin notes that these shifts are more subtle than they may seem. If we judge from partisans alone, the Dems have been completely flat from early 2014 to the present, while Republicans gained about 4 points over 2014 through 2016, only to see all of those gains lost in 2017. So if the Dems are mostly flat, and there has been a bit of GOP decline, where have people gone? Pure independents are up recently, by just over 3 percentage points since the 2016 election. But let's go back to the original question. Does this suggest that Trump's got a smaller, more dense base? Not really. Even among Republicans, Trump's approval fell over the course of 2017. Gallup changed its methodology at the beginning of this year, so the most recent partisan data that's available is for the end of December. Let's overlay the percentages of partisan identification and approval onto hard numbers, specifically the population of the United States. Yes, this includes young people who aren't actually polled, it's for demonstration purposes only. Because Gallup only splits out its approval ratings by Democrat, Republican and Independent, we've estimated the approval of Democratic and Republican leaners as being halfway between the partisan approval and the independent one. In January 2017, about 156 million people approved of Trump on average, more than half of them, 81.2 million, Republican. For each month, we averaged the available values. That's out of about 91.2 million Republicans overall. By December, about 125 million people approved of Trump, with more than half again coming from the Republican Party. There were about as many Republicans in total in December as approved of Trump in January 2017. In both January 2017 and December, about 52% of those who approved of Trump were Republicans. In January 2017, though, about 89% of Republicans approved of Trump, while by December only 80% did. There are a lot of margins of error at play here. But if a trend of Republican identity sagging and independence increasing holds, there's a vitally important question for the Republican Party this November and in 2020. Trump is president in large part because Republicans skeptical of his candidacy overcame the skepticism to vote for him in 2016 anyway. Some of this was probably distaste for Hillary Clinton, and some of it was probably party loyalty. Neither this year nor in 2 years' time will Clinton be on the ballot, we assume. And if the Republican Party can't lure those voters back, it's not clear if they'd necessarily line up to cast a ballot for the party's candidates. Trump's strategy of insisting on boosting his base has appeared to keep his base loyal to him. But to some small extent, his party eroded over the course of 2017, which, given his margin of victory 2 years ago, bodes poorly for a re-election.